It is Madden Benz Unfiltered here on Trib Live. It is our Facebook stream. Mark Madden from 105.9 The X and Trib Live. You can read Mark 4 times a week here at the Trib and listen to him Monday through Friday on the X at 105.9, 3 until 6. And you can read me at Breakfast with Benz. Mark, is this one of the rare times in your life where you might be just as interested, if not more so, in the NBA Finals than the NHL Finals? I know you've become quite the Jokic fan for Denver.
Well, no, not really. I kind of switched back and forth last night with the NBA game. I watched the last quarter, which is how I like to watch NBA games. If NBA games were just 12-minute games and they played 4 of them a night, I would be more likely to watch. But, yeah, Miami pulled an upset at Denver. But I don't think any team in a final series, not that it never happens, but, it's unlikely a sweep's going to occur at that point. So, I still think Denver wins. And then the NHL final, the first game I thought was just meh. I mean, the league's changing. The league changes every so often. And the league swung to speed when the Penguins were good. Now it's swinging away. It's more heavy. And it swung away from star power to depth. And not that the combination of heavy and depth can't be effective, but it can be boring too. And that's why I'm not that excited about these finals. There's not a real star in the finals. I mean, Kachuk kind of, Eichel kind of, but not really.
So how does an analytically inclined head of hockey operations like Kyle Dubas then handle that switch, that paradigm shift that you're talking about? Since theoretically, those who are analytically inclined go towards speed, go more towards star power, because star power lends itself to the puck possession element of the game, which is where the analytics are based. Because of all that, how does Dubas handle that now that he's in charge of the Penguins?
Well, it's not that easy to predict him because he's not starting from scratch. He doesn't have an expansion team. He has to deal with the contracts that, Hextall and even before him, Rutherford signed. So I think Dubas is a speed guy. I know Sullivan's a speed guy. What that portends, hey, when I say Dubas is going to come in and fix the team, I never said he's going to win a cup with this group. I just said he's going to get things really stabilized and moving forward. But as far as winning right away, there's no GM you could have brought in that was going to win right away. There's just too much to undo.
All right, so Penguins fans want to hear from you on the state of hockey overall, the state of the Penguins with Kyle Dubas coming on board as director of hockey operations. What does this mean for the GM tag, Mark? Is this just sort of a successor potentially for Dubas if he takes another job someday? Is this just a right-hand man? Who do you see fulfilling that job, and is it ceremonial in title at this point?
I don't know that it's ceremonial. I don't think it's particularly meaningful either. I think it'll be some, like Kyle Dubas Jr., some younger, less accomplished analytics guy.
Gotcha. So it's not so much
who won't have decision-making powers. Dubas is making all the decisions. That's why he took the job.
Was making all the decisions the front office. How many of those decisions will still be heavily influenced by the bench in the locker room?
I hope not at all, but I don't know.
Because that's one thing I do think we have to keep in mind. And maybe this one of those decisions comes to a head with the goaltender. I guess I'll throw it to you, Mark, in the sense of Tristan Jarry, how much you think Mike Sullivan truly is on board with him as a starter for the Penguins in the future, because I got the vibe right away that Kyle Dubas is not, based on the way he talked about Jarry in his first press conference.
Yeah, I wouldn't sign Jarry. I don't think Dubas is going to. What Sullivan wants, well, maybe that'll be the first test of who gets to decide what. But it's going to be Dubas. Dubas is going to decide, period. I mean, Sullivan's not his coach. If Sullivan tries to inflict too much of what he wants on Dubas, he better be careful, because Sullivan's not his coach. That's one thing a coach always has to remember when a new GM is hired to come in over him. This guy didn't pick me. Tread lightly.
And Jarry is not his goaltender. But then again, going back to the whole analytics inclination, if you're somebody in a management role in hockey, who is really your goalie? Because goalie and analytics usually don't go hand in hand, do they?
Well, like Dubas said at the press conference, it's impossible to project or predict. Difficult, I think, is actually the word he used. So, yeah, it's funny, Tim. I was listening to the BT Morning Show, which is more listenable now. And the guy said on there that they should trade for John Gibson. Why does everybody a Pittsburgh team gets have to be local. Why is that so friggin' important? That every time somebody with local ties comes up, we have to go get them. I hate that. Although I thought they should have got Trocheck instead of Malkin. Not because Trocheck was local, though. But, Gibson ain't been so good for Anaheim for a couple years, although I still think he's a real good goaltender. I just think he's beat down by the situation there. But as far as trading for goalie, like Gibson, Hellebuck's available from Winnipeg, what are you going to give up to get a guy like that? And then what are you going to have to do when you re-up him? What's the price tag going to be? Especially in an era of uncertainty with goaltending, as Dubas talked about at his introductory press briefing. Why would Dubas go out and get a big-time, big-money goaltender? Answer, he just will not. Yeah, well,
I'll give you a statistical framework for what you're talking about, because I looked this up to go along with our podcast conversation today. Like Igor Shesterkin, for instance, at a .916 save percentage that was 10th in the National Hockey League. At 25th is Casey DeSmith, 0.11 back from Shesterkin. He's at 905. So, that's the difference between 10th and 25th in the National Hockey League. And again, this just speaks to the theory of it's too random to invest in goalie 1 versus goalie 2 on the free agent market.
That's it, Tim. I would trade DeSmith for Shesterkin.
Well, I would too, but he's probably coming back as the number 2, and that's it, Mark. I mean, it's like if you don't want to fit.
I don't think he's coming back as the number 2.
Well, he is the number 2 right now. So you think he's going to be traded then, or?
No, I think he'll wind up playing in the AHL on an NHL contract.
I was just wondering if maybe some of what he did in the World Championships might.
Absolutely irrelevant. That's a B-list tournament. My God. The U.S.'s, captain was Nick Bonino.
No, I get you. I mean, it's not that much of a tournament, but I mean, if we're talking about how thin the goaltending ranks are up top, then they're also thin if you're looking for a number 2 as well. I mean, I'm
sure Mike Sullivan will point to that World Championships and say, hey, Casey DeSmith's a guy that we can use. Sully doesn't want anything to change. He just thinks he has it licked, and he hasn't won a playoff series since 2018.
Are either Varlamov or I'm trying to think of who else we talked about in the podcast. You already brought up
Samsonov, Varlamov, other off, yeah.
Any of those guys good enough or not?
Yeah, well, of course they are.
Okay, I mean, I'm not sold on Samsonov. Varlamov is the second guy to not Shesterkin, but Sorokin.
Samsonov got the Leafs to the second round. He beat Tampa Bay. He beat Vasilevsky.
So you're sold on him then, no matter what the price tag?
I'm not sold, but he's better than – I'd rather have him than Jari.
I would too. I mean, I would too. I'd
rather have him at the presumed price than the presumed price for Jari.
All right, so Penguins fans want to hear from you on the whole goaltending conversation. Let's do that. We can also talk about, Mark, since we discussed the NBA, which is sort of maybe not low-hanging fruit for Pittsburghers. Neither is English Premier League soccer. For you it is. But I'm looking at the Oakland A's right now. If ever there was a case for relegation in North American team sports, they are it. And maybe baseball is it as a sport if they were to go down that path to relegate teams until they're willing to come up and qualify and be ready to play.
Well, they're just not going to do that. But I think when the Oakland A's get to Vegas, they'll spend money. You can't go to Vegas with a 32-win team. Okay, that's not what they want there. So once they go to Vegas, they'll start spending money. No question about it. They'll assemble a good team in relatively short order.
With the Pirates now having won 5 in a row, do you feel like they've righted the ship somewhat from the awful May? I mean, they're still within a half game of the Brewers, and I keep looking at the Brewers as a barometer because I don't think the Pirates are all that good. But if their division isn't good, it keeps them relevant as much as they are keeping themselves relevant based on the way they're playing.
I don't think the Pirates are all that good either. I think you could name their number of legitimate, everyday major league players on one hand. But that is a bad division, and boy, they need to sweep the A's. A's in time for 3 games starting tonight, Tim. They need to sweep the A's. They need to get to 7 games over 500. And after having swept the Cardinals, that'll really make a statement.
And I wrote about this in the Trib last week. If you look at where the Pirates are right now, they've got an easy stretch of games here, frankly, between the Cardinals, who they just swept, last place team in the Central, A's worst team maybe in baseball history before everything is said and done. And then on top of that, they got the Mets, who are meh at best before they get into division play when they do get the Brewers and they do get the Cubs a couple times. And Eating in their own division is where it's going to count for Pittsburgh by season's end. I don't even think it's so much about beating teams who are as good or better than them. It's beating up on the lesser teams, and frankly, beneficial for them. A lot of those lesser teams are in their own division.
That's why they got to sweep the A's. If they can sweep the A's, Tim, they'll be 7 games over 500. It would be tough to imagine them collapsing to the point where they'd be out of it by the All-Star break.
Where do you have Kutch as far as like all-time great Pirates, Mark? He could get to a bunch of these.
I understand why they're making a fuss over 2,000 hits. Like what, 2% of players all time get there. I guess it's a big deal, but it's also kind of an invented milestone. It's being big dealed like it's bigger than it is. I think that's a fair thing to say. But as far as an all-time Pirate goes, I don't know. I have no trouble naming like 4 outfielders better than him for the Pirates. Bonds, Stargell, Clemente, Kiner. There might be more, but that's off the top of my head. Paul Wainer, Lloyd Wainer. I mean, he's had a real good career, but he's, recency bias romanticizes how good.
There is that element. I think a lot of people want to put the import on Kutch being the figurehead of the team that was able to get them out of the 20 years of darkness. And I think that's fair.
Let me tell you, Tim, 5 of the outfielders I named, Bonds, Clemente, Stargell, Kiner, and Paul Wainer, he's nowhere close to any of them.
How about Parker?
Not even in the same stratosphere.
How about Parker? Closer?
I think Parker's better, but I think they're close.
Yeah, I think Parker is better as well, but I mean, at least I'd argue that.
Yeah, Parker should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think Kutch is there yet. So yeah, Parker.
Yeah, and I think Kutch is looking.
Al Oliver was better.
You think Al Oliver was better than Kutch?
Absolutely, much better hitter.
All right, I would put Kutch in front of Oliver. I think the argument is sort of at Parker for that dividing line. He's top 10 all time for sure.
Well, the point is that we're kind of overestimating his career in context. But I understand, because when your team's been this bad this long, you got to cling to stuff. And this is something worth clinging to because he's done very well. I mean, he's a very good player.
Mark, you have the opinion, I think you are. I know where I am on it. When it comes to Steelers and NFL offseason coverage, it's almost like they pumped the well so dry in May and June. You get to training camp and you feel like everything's been written and talked about already. I think I'm at that point already with the Steelers, especially since this year there's no quarterback controversy to talk about.
Well, Tim, it's why my draft talk was really good. I mean, I'm, to pat myself on the back. My draft talk was really good because I didn't start doing it till 2 weeks before. Whereas everybody else talked about the draft, 3 months before, and then every 2 weeks they talked about the same crap. It's unbelievably overwrought. And the one topic that's worth talking about, nobody talks about, which is that the Steelers, by the way their team's lining up, and some of the talk you hear, like Warren and Najee in the same backfield, which I don't believe, by the way, and all the tight ends they have, they're going to be a running team, and it's going to make Pickett into a game manager. I thought Pickett was the golden boy. I thought he was going to throw for 4,000 yards. I thought he was going to be in a class with Burrow someday. Well, that's not going to happen if you take baby steps.
Yeah, I've never said he's going to be in a class with Burrow. I've always thought
I know he won't be, Tim, but he better come close. If they're to ever win a division and ever win a playoff game with him at quarterback, he better be like, I don't know, if Burrow's a 10, Pickett better be at least an 8 or a 7.
Well, here's something interesting, sort of big picture about the Steelers, and I wonder what you think about this, because I looked this up over the weekend. I looked at some of and these were all the NFL.com projections, because you go sportsbook to sportsbook when they do over-unders, it varies a little bit, so I'll just use the NFL.com projections. They had something like, I think it was 8 teams in the AFC over 9.5 wins. The Steelers and Browns were not 2 of those teams. So if you're of the opinion, and a lot of people in Pittsburgh are, that the Steelers are going to be at least a 10-win team, and the Browns are going to be better with a year full of Deshaun Watson.
How could anyone conclude the Steelers are at least a 10-win team? How could anybody possibly logically conclude that?
Well, Mark, I mean, the over-under's at 8.5. They won 9 last year. Are they better this year or not?
Okay, you're saying at least a 10-win team. I think their ceiling is 10 wins.
Yeah, exactly. So at least a 10
at least and ceiling are different.
So if they are a 10-win team and Cleveland is perceived to be a little bit better this year and they're an 8 or 9-win team, you're talking about 10 teams in the AFC, 10 of above 500. That's just not going to happen. So, like,
oh, I know it's not. And
yeah,
the Steelers are just as likely to be under than over.
Right. Now, their over-under right now is at 8.5. If you look at the sports books, like Bet Rivers, for instance, is at minus 150 to go over. So they're already potentially going to slide it up, I think, with the number being what it is.
Yeah, that's because all the dorky Steeler fans bet over. Mm-hmm. That's what moves the number. It's not anybody thinking they're going to be better than 8.5. It's because all the dorky Steeler fans bet over, and they move the number up to try to get more action on the under. That's what happens.
That's what happens. It's happening not only with them, but it's happening across the AFC, because we are not going to live in a world where there's like 3 or 4 teams in the AFC that have 10 wins and are out of the playoffs. It's just not going to come to that. So if the Steelers are going to be significantly better, and I keep getting told that by saying 10, I'm not giving them enough credit. I don't know who else is going to lose then. Who else is going to slide back? The Dolphins, maybe. The Chargers, maybe. Those are 2 teams that I could see dropping back. But some people have to move for the Steelers to still make a run.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you're acting like I'm a defender of their faith. I think they're going to win 9 games at best.
At best? All right. I've got them at 10. I think they can be a game better. And it's a weird disconnect, because I think that if you look back to last year, it's more an indictment of last year than it is a projection for this year, Mark, to be honest. They weren't a 9-win team last year. They got the benefit of the long snapper thing in Cincinnati in week 1, and they played a pus schedule in the back half after the
Oh,
bye.
I know. I mean, here's the other thing too, Tim. If they do what it appears they're going to do and make Pickett a game manager and just run, that'll beat the crappy teams. That'll kill the crappy teams. That's how you beat crappy teams.
And with the 25th easiest schedule in football, then maybe that is good enough to get to at least 9 or 10.
Yeah, but why are we shooting for what's good enough? Why aren't we looking at the long run to try to make your first-round pick at quarterback into the best quarterback he can be? And maybe he makes some mistakes. Maybe you missed the playoffs this year, but you look big picture, maybe in a couple of years, getting him to improve, you're ready to actually win playoff games. Why is it always, and this has always been a fundamental flaw with the Steelers' approach, especially in the Tomlin era, just squeeze in and see if you can win a game. Just make it and then anything can happen. That's stupid, and it doesn't work, and they've proven that.
It's voodoo goaltending on the NFL level. Make it hard.
I'm tired of how stupid they are and nobody calling them on it. This idiotic, let's just make sure we make it and then anything can happen, but it doesn't happen. When's the last time it happened?
Did you see Greg Cosell of, I think it's NFL Network, NFL Films? He was on Ross Tucker's podcast. He said words to the effect of he would be surprised if Broderick Jones started the season at left tackle. If he doesn't start at left tackle, then they shouldn't have traded up to get him.
Troy Polamalu didn't start a single game his rookie year, Tim. That's the Stiller way. We got to believe in the Stiller way. That's the way the Stillers do things. It's a Stiller way.
I mean, I think Dan Moore, the way he was talking about Dan Moore, I mean, he made it out to be like Broderick Jones had this huge mountain to climb to get into the starting lineup. If that was the case.
That's like what Kevin Dotson said.
It was similar to what Dotson said, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You drafted him. You traded up to get him with the intention of him starting week 1, I think. And if he makes some mistakes, then he makes some mistakes. And he learns from those mistakes. I mean, they just play it safe all the friggin' time. And it's why they've not won a playoff game in 6 years.
Do you think that Peterson playing in the slot is a good idea sometimes? Or should they just keep him?
The more I think about it, yeah. The more I think about it, maybe their nickel should be Peterson in the slot and Levi Wallace comes in on the outside.
And then just have Sullivan and Keanu Neal and some of these guys play the slot nickel in run situations against run-heavy teams, that sort of thing?
Yes, exactly. But again, you know what they'll say? Well, you don't want Patrick Peterson moving from the outside and inside. That could be confusing. It won't be confusing. He's a Hall of Famer. The Steelers act like football is the Manhattan Project. Like cities are going to be destroyed if a mistake gets made.
Well, this one might.
Well, with any luck.
Eric says, have either of you guys seen Kenny Pickett walk on water yet? If you get a chance, check it out. And I'm almost positive it can cure cancer as well. It's pretty amazing. You know, I think that the conversation we just had about Pickett is basically, Mark, you're suggesting that they're self-defeating their own high bar for what a first-round pick should be, right?
Right. He's taking baby steps as opposed to reaching for his ceiling.
I think that kind of speaks to the mentality of why they took him where they took him, which is they just didn't want to go potentially decades hunting and pecking for a home run at quarterback. They felt safer with a closer to surer thing, a potentially very good quarterback as opposed to a potential Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but it all boils down to they're making him a game manager.
I think
if they do some of the stuff they're talking about, maybe they won't. I mean, you know what the over-under is for plays where Warren and Harris are in the backfield at the same time this year? 10 plays. 5. Maybe. And I'm betting under.
Yeah, I'd go under on that.
It still seems like the offense is being designed for him to be a game manager. And one thing that offense, I saw some idiot on Twitter, one of the bloggers, talk about how Matt Canada should be fired if he can't make the best use of these weapons. And then they listed all the weapons, right, including the reconstituted offensive line. And first off, it's never too early to blame Matt Canada. Second, their weapons aren't outstanding. They have depth of weaponry, but they don't have outstanding weapons.
Yeah, their leading receiver didn't have a touchdown last year.
Right. And George Pickens, we talk about him being a number one receiver. We've only seen that in very brief flashes.
What'd you think of his Pro Bowl comments that he got snubbed?
I'm making a familiar gesture with my right hand, Tim.
The 4 guys in front of him were Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, and Jamar Chase. He did not get snubbed. If anything, if he was snubbed, he was snubbed by his own quarterbacks and his own offensive coordinator for not coming up with more plays for him.
Well, you'll remember, Tim, that in college, Pickens was thought to be a bit of a dink, correct?
There were some questions about just the stuff we've seen, the petulance, the anger if he didn't get the ball, the typical wide receiver.
Do you think that's going to get smaller or bigger?
It'll get smaller if he gets the ball more this year.
No, because a guy like that never gets the ball enough.
And he'll be upset over whatever stat he's not getting. You mean like touchdowns in the red zone or whatever?
He had 100 catches, Tim. He'd won 101.
Michael says, which team is more likely to next win a postseason series or game in the case of the NFL? Is it the Penguins, the Pirates, or the Steelers?
Oh, God. I just wrote a column about that. I'm writing it right now for the Trib. Oh, that's one of the most cliched sports talk questions. The answer is the Riverhounds.
They beat 2 MLS teams now, right?
Yeah, and they got the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals at another MLS team on Tuesday at Cincinnati. So they're having a pretty good season. They're only 1 point out of first in the league, too.
Jason says, I don't believe Jari is the biggest issue. He hasn't been great, but I believe the defense in front of him has been atrocious. How many odd man breaks can you ask your goalie to stop?
I can ask my goalie to be available to stop a lot more than he's been available to stop. The injuries, I can ask my goalie to be better in big games. I can ask my goalie to beat Chicago with the playoffs on the line. I can ask my goalie to not have a turnover in double overtime against the Islanders back in 2021. Jari has been a constant disappointment. A constant disappointment.
That's the thing with him is that everybody wants to say, well, he's been hurt. Well, he's been hurt. Well, at some point, it's his fault, even if it's not his fault. You know, if the injuries aren't his fault, then the injuries aren't his fault. But as a GM, as a franchise, you can't be held responsible for his cap hit and his career to make him feel better by keeping him on the roster for more money.
Well, especially 6 times 6. And guaranteed, Tim, he's going to get that somewhere.
You think someone's going to step up and pay that much, even though there's some projections saying that the goalie market's going to go down?
I think if the potential is there for it to go down with anyone, he might be the line where it does go down. Mm-hmm. But he also might be the guy just above that line, too.
This is from Richard. He says Sullivan may have FSG's support right now, but it's likely things change in a year as he's unlikely to lose his pride or stubbornness system-wise.
That's correct. I agree.
He was talking again during a Zoom call with Pittsburgh media members after the Dubas hire about how much faster they need to get. I'm not sure where he thinks they're going to go shopping at the speed tree. You know, like who are they just going to pluck off and put into the lineup to reconfigure it to make it look like 16 and 17 again, especially with Letang, Malkin, and Sid not being as fast as they used to be.
I think they should look for speed, and I think if they can't get more, he has to adjust his coaching to what they do have. And, Tim, the line of demarcation, and I will bury him like a dead dog for this if he doesn't do it, he needs to put Sid on the right half wall on the power play. At long last, to give them a de facto point man, a reset point, and a distributor. I think very carefully when I criticize coaches, but this is one of those cases where if he doesn't put Sid on the right half wall, I am right and he is wrong. Absolutely 100%.
This is from Richard, too. Follow-up. The Pens would be better off moving on from Jari unless he signs a short-term, reasonable money deal simply because the team desperately needs something that's not exactly the same.
Well, yeah, that last part, they're stale. But here's the thing. If he signs a short-term, reasonable money deal and he's hurt and disappoints again, then you've just thrown good money after bad, just less good money than you might have.
Mark, how is the plodding through Ted Lasso coming for you? Speeding through it? Are you taking your time through it? Those, especially early in its iteration, you can watch those pretty quickly. They were shorter episodes than what ends up being the case as the season.
Oh, is that right? The episodes get longer?
Some of them got longer, especially in the third season, yeah.
Well, I'm on the treadmill between 33 and 45 minutes a day. So that is exactly the amount of Ted Lasso I watch right now. Like I stop in mid-episode and just pick it up the next time.
That's a good way to go. That's usually the way I went with it through the first two seasons. I fell out of it by season 3. You said you like the soccer element, or do you just see the soccer element as sort of background, as framework?
No, I love the soccer element. It actually gets across the joy and attachment that English football fans find in their team, and it's a joy and attachment that we don't have here in the States. Steeler fans aren't half as attached to Steelers, even though they think they are, as your average English soccer fan to your average English soccer team, let alone a team like Liverpool or Manchester United, or a team, that has that tradition and that winning past. The people in Pittsburgh think they have that kind of fandom, but they don't. And here's how I know, Tim. The stands are half empty at kickoff because they're out in the parking lot getting lambasted. They boo at the first sign of trouble. Everything is criticized, everything. Whereas over there, they just love the team. I've been to Anfield 15, 16 times. I've never heard Liverpool booed. And I've seen them in some situations where, if it was an American fan base, they would have been. It's a true love between fan and team, and it's reciprocated by the team. Over here, the fans don't care. They think they do, but they don't, to quote Michelle Therrien. And the players absolutely don't give a crap about the fans. Absolutely do not.
That said, it's okay to boo the Penguins' power play like we just talked about, though, right?
It's okay for me to. I'm very serious about Tim. That's a move that has to happen.
The power play you're talking about?
Yep, has to happen.
I skipped one here. Sorry. Does the Dubas hire prevent the Pens from falling into Red Wings Blackhawks downfalls? I think this speaks to a point that you brought up in the podcast about how hard it is to get young. Forget getting good, but get young in the NHL. The structure is more difficult.
Let me tell you, Dubas is going to get criticized. And pretty quickly, too, because people want to win right now. We have Sid, we have Gino, we have Letang. We need to win right now. And what he's been left to work with will not allow him to win right now. It will allow the team to get better. It will allow the team to stabilize and really look to the future past Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. And that's going to take a while, but he'll be able to do it. But they're not going to win right now.
Have you made a final decision on buying the Stanley Cup final ticket when you're out in Vegas? Is that a definitive thumbs down, or if it's like 2-2 and it's a really important game, might you talk yourself into it?
Well, here's the thing, Tim. If I go to the game, I have to cancel my reservation at Carbone, which is the best Italian restaurant in Vegas, and it's really hard to get. You have to get reservations like 45, 60 days out.
Jeez. All right.
No, I'm serious. So I will probably go to Carbone.
Well, you can watch it afterwards then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the face-off out there is at 5 p.m. because of Eastern TV time. So my reservation for Carbone's at 5 p.m.
Are you an anti-Vegas pre-show guy, or do you like what they do with the Golden Knight fighting the opponent, the Dark Witch that comes out from the opponent's locker room, all that?
It's not important what I like, Tim. The fans love it there. They absolutely love it because they're new to it. It like whatever you give new fans to look at, they will accept as the norm in perpetuity.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Mark is on today at 3 o'clock. Make sure you check him out there on 105.9 The X. Read him and read his column. When's that column posting, Mark, about the which team is next to win the...
I don't know, Tim. Don't rush me.
It needs to incubate. It needs time. It needs to
It's
bake.
more of a River Hans column than anything. Yeah.
Okay, so that's coming out of the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review this week, and you can read Breakfast with Benz tomorrow.
I'll be honest, Tim, it's not very good so far, but you can't write about the Penguins and Steelers and Pirates every day. You just can't.
This is Madden Benz Unfiltered.